Hi everyone, and welcome back to a new episode of ESA Explores. Have you ever wondered what really happens behind the scenes to keep the International Space Station running 24 hours a day, 365 days a year? Over the next few episodes, we'll explore how dedicated teams on the ground support ESA astronaut missions up in space. And today, we're starting right at the heart of it all. The Columbus Control Center, which is located near Munich in Germany, is ESA's mission control for the European Columbus Science Laboratory module in space. From here, teams work around the clock to keep astronauts safe, operate experiments, and coordinate with partners across the globe. We'll hear from Columbus and Increment Lead Flight Director Tristan Hermel, who explains what it takes to manage operations in orbit and why there's no such thing as a typical day in mission control. Especially when we have our very own ESA astronaut Sophie Adenot from France on board of the space station for her Epsilon mission now. My name is Laura Mühlen and I'm your host for today. Hi Tristan, it's so nice to meet you and be here in the Columbus Control Center. Can you briefly tell us what is happening in this room?
Sure, hi, and very happy to have you here. We are in the Columbus Control Center, called CC for short. And from here we command and we control Columbus, ESA's module on orbit, part of the space station. So what we do on a daily basis is that we make sure that Columbus is safe and that we also operate all our payloads, that we do the science that we're supposed to do every day. And that means a lot of coordination with the other control centers around the globe, Houston, Huntsville, Tsukuba, and Moscow.
And then for the listeners who have never been in a control room, like me, we have all these big screens here. Can you tell us a bit more what we're seeing on these screens?
There are indeed a lot of screens, but you can trust me, all of them are useful. So what you're actually seeing are called consoles, and we have several positions sitting on those consoles. They are all a bit specific according to what those people actually need. So in this room, you always have a flight director sitting here. Also have a Stratos, which is responsible for the systems of Columbus. So those persons are here 24/7. And we also have a Comet responsible for the planning only during weekdays. And basically what is behind is a lot of tools, the tools that we need on a daily basis to operate the station. I could not go possibly through all of them, but I can highlight a few. So the most important one for me is actually the voice communication system, which is right behind me, and that keeps me connected with all the operation centers in Europe and as well with the operation centers abroad with Houston, Huntsville, Tsukuba, and Moscow. Then one of the most important tools that we have is, we have a direct link to station with the video link, which we call the 9-pack, because we have 9 downlink channels.
Is it?
And then maybe one of the most interesting and most important is the timeline of the astronauts, because it also gives us the time when we are in connection or not with the station. We have some LOSs for loss of signal when we don't know what's happening on station. But during the acquisition of signal, AOS phase, then we can talk to station, we can also send some commands to our payload, etc., etc. So the timeline is actually one of the most important tools here also on this console, in this control room. There is a vertical red line representing the current time, and the astronauts have to execute all the activities on time.
On time. So it's their schedule, and with activities, it's everything they have to do, like from sleeping to exercising to operation.
From the daily things that you need, such as sleeping, eating your lunch, exercising as well, to the payload activities. Yes, we have the teams, I mentioned the Comet. The Comet team is interacting on a daily basis with the other partners to build the timeline of the astronauts.
Yeah. Sounds quite complex again, so how far in advance do you plan a week, for example, or a day for an astronaut?
That would be a question for a planner, but let's say it works at different scales. So as one of the increment lead flight director, I was a bit involved already in the building an overview of the planning of Sophie's mission, but that was already 4 months before the start of the increment. But we had already a rough idea of which payload, which experiment we're going to do on each day. And then there is a different scale, which is we have a monthly planning, and then we have some shorter term planning. This timeline is built, basically it shows the next 2 weeks, but we review it multiple times. So for the day of execution, we are sure that everything needed is in place.
Yeah.
And everything means the procedure for the astronaut, storage notes so they know where to look for the equipment that they need, and that we also have all the resources in place.
And your job is the one of a flight director. So what do you actually do from day to day?
Yes, so the flight director, the Columbus flight director is the highest position in the flight control team of ESA. So we are responsible for giving direction to the rest of the team, and also we endorse responsibility for anything that we are doing. So my job is to make sure that we are keeping our astronauts safe, that we are keeping Columbus safe, and that we are executing the activities that we have planned in a safe way. So I interact also a lot with the Houston teams mainly, and here this console is a bit also of a hub for all the various consoles that exist across Europe, because we have many operation centers in various countries, part of ESA.
Talking about the partners and talking to the partners, when do you communicate with NASA and the international partners, and when do you talk to the Europeans?
Interesting question. Pretty easy to answer actually, because it's very well defined as it needs to be for a project such as ISS. And so Columbus, for a start, is part of the USOS, that stands for United States Orbital Segment. And as such, the leading authority on console is called the Houston flight. And so Columbus Flight Director has an authority over Columbus, its equipment. We also have the responsibility of its system, but anything that will impact the IPs, and for Houston, it's a lot of things. They are giving us a lot of resources. We will then have to interact with them. So, for example, if my astronaut who's working on one of the ESA experiments is getting late, I will need to talk to Houston flight, because he will be responsible for the overall timeline of this astronaut. We also get to talk to the J flight, the flight director for the Japanese Space Agency, in case we want to do something in their module. We talk constantly, and that's the only way to make things happen on orbit.
And what happens, for example, if there's no European astronaut on the station, do you still have to communicate?
Absolutely, yeah. It doesn't change much for us. It's actually one of the misconceptions maybe for the broad public. We operate 24/7, and we operate with any of the astronauts on board. So we work with anybody from any nationality. Having an European on board adds a bit of excitement. It's better. We may have a bit more activities, but we don't have one all the time. Yeah. So we work with anybody, with the Americans, with the Japanese, the Canadians, with the Russian cosmonauts as well.
Yeah. And you just said it's like operated, or there's somebody 24/7. So this position is always filled. There's always someone in the control center. So how does it look for you? Do you have to work shifts then, and long hours sometimes, I guess?
Yes, exactly. We're organized in shifts. Not just this console, but also the Stratos console, who's responsible for the Columbus systems, as well as the GCR ground controller. So about 2/3 of my job is actually working on shifts and sitting on this console, and the last third is a normal daily job in an office. So the shifts, we have 3 shifts per day. They are 8 hours long, plus we account for 1 hour for handing over to the incoming shift. We name them Orbit 1, Orbit 2, Orbit 3. For us, it's quite convenient. Orbit 1 is the morning shift, which is pretty much aligned with the morning on orbit. Orbit 2 is the afternoon, and Orbit 3 is the night shift. They're all quite different, but to keep it simple, Orbit 1 and 2 will be focused on supporting the astronauts on board and the real-time activities. And Orbit 3 is also the night for astronauts, so we don't have any crew activities then, but we are mostly preparing for the upcoming days.
When people think about mission control and you have the infamous Houston, we have a problem situation, did you ever hear, like in Munich, we have a problem, or what astronauts call down when they have an issue?
I'm also a fan of space movies, and I knew, obviously I knew this Houston, we have a problem way before I knew I was going to work in space. So we are definitely the counterpart of Houston, so we could theoretically hear that, even though we hope never to hear it. To my knowledge, the sentence Munich, we have a problem, has never been said on the space-ground communication, and I hope to keep it that way.
You already mentioned that it's, of course, super interesting to work with an ESA astronaut while they're on board. And we have Sophie Adenot, the French ESA astronaut, for her Epsilon mission on the space station. In what way are you connected to her mission and working with her?
Yeah, so actually for the first half at least of Sophie's mission, I will have the privilege to serve as the increment lead flight director for increment 74. So I do have to take a step back here and explain what an increment is. So as you may know, the ISS has been occupied for 25 years continuously, with crew rotating every few months. And for each rotation of this crew composition, we call that an increment. So we started with increment 1, and we are now running increment 74, which started in December 2025 and will run until end of July 2026. So Sophie's mission will be half between increment 74 and the other half between in 75. So for the second half of 74, sorry, a lot of numbers, I will be the increment lead flight director, and that means I will not be sitting on this console for 4 months, and I will have a different responsibility. I will be in a lot of coordination meetings, and instead of being called into the real-time operations of station, I will try to coordinate a bit more the middle term, the longer term, but obviously with the same objective, which is achieving the science that we need to achieve.
How long is an increment? Is it always different?
They've had different variable duration over the years. Currently an increment is 8 months long, that is the time between the docking of the Soyuz and the unlock of the Soyuz. So increment 74 is aligned with the duration of the mission of the MS-28 Soyuz. And that's why Sophie, who's flying on a Crew Dragon, will be half on increment 74 and half on increment 75. So the preparation of the increment started roughly 8 to 6 months before the actual start, with already integrating the objectives of the partners with our objectives, highlighting what are the most important objectives that we have and trying to put everything in place. We have some objectives that are already associated with some payloads we already have on board. By payloads, I mean experiments or hardware things to execute our science. And some others we're actually waiting because they will be coming up on some coming cargo vehicles. And then obviously some objectives are, we need to wait our astronauts to actually be on board to execute our objectives. So it's a very interesting role. It will be my first increment as well, so looking forward to that. And obviously, because we have Sophie's an ESA astronaut, but he's a French ESA astronaut, so that adds a bit more excitement.
I can imagine.
Yeah, we're going to start working with her almost from day one. She has some experiments, especially human physiology experiments, that require to have a data point very close to Earth time on orbit. And so from, I believe, day 2 or day 3 already, we will be executing some experiments with her. And then the increment team, not me, but also all the leads from all the various positions, will have a weekly tag up with her when we can talk about the objectives, what is the most important in the upcoming weeks, a bit of feedback from the previous weeks as well. And she's just part of our team, so she will be our ears, our eyes, and our hands on station, so it's super important that we keep her involved. What I'm looking forward to with Sophie is actually having the first weekly conference with her. I want to get her impression. I want to see her perspective of operating Columbus. We have an idea of what it is, but only from them there. And I'm really looking forward to talking about that, maybe in French, during those weekly conferences that we will have with her. And then I'm looking forward to actually the whole 8 or 9 month of her mission. And I hope I will be in Cologne when she gets back, and I will be able to shake her hand and say, hey, I was part of your mission and I'm super proud of it.
And then after that, you would go back to the role of flight director, or does it switch between different colleagues?
Absolutely. Yeah. So for each increment, one flight director takes a role, somebody from within the team. And so as soon as I will be done with this position, this responsibility, a colleague of mine will take over. We will have a formal handover, and I will be back into the pool of people sitting on this console.
Yeah. So in your job as increment lead and as a flight director, it sounds very complex. You have to talk to so many different teams and people and have everything under control. What would you say is one of the main skills that you need for this job?
Yeah, to me, the one skill that is the most important at the end of the day is knowing how to ask questions, because I have to rely on many people. They are very smart, they're very knowledgeable, and ultimately they are the experts. Still, I have to make sure that we are doing things the proper way, meaning safe for everybody, our astronauts, our station, and that we can still achieve what we need to achieve at the end of the day. And that comes down to asking questions, going into the details, and also knowing when, okay, I have enough and I know enough about your payload, I know enough about what you're proposing, so I can give a green light. And
what excites you most about this job? Is there one thing that you enjoy the most?
I believe what is the most exciting is, first of all, I really believe in our mission. I believe ISS is one of the best projects that humanity maybe that ever run. And so I'm first of all a fan, and that's what I love about this job. It really feeds my passion every day. And then there's not a day that resembles the other. There is going to be a surprise every day on console. We hope there is not, but the unexpected always happens. And so it's not a job in which you can ever get bored.
Yeah, can imagine. And then looking forward, maybe with the future of Columbus and the space station, what do you think where Columbus Control Center will go? Like, what will the job in the future look like with all commercial space stations and also lunar missions at some point?
Oh, I would be very smart if I could exactly tell you what the future holds for us. But you're absolutely correct. We are exactly at a turning point of humanity in space, especially in low Earth orbit. So what I can tell you is that we still have a few good years with ISS, with Columbus. We still have a lot of science to achieve and to collect. And then the people of Columbus, are preparing for the future. There is going to be a new control center that is going to be built right next to Columbus Control Center. It will be called HEC, for Human Exploration Control Center. And so whatever happens, whatever the future brings us, we want to be part of it.
Yeah, sounds amazing. Then I hope that we can maybe meet again at some point and you can tell me a lot more about these missions and the control for that.
Yeah, likewise. And you're more than welcome to come back.
Thank you so much.
I think it's safe to say this is a pretty exciting time to be working in mission control. Next time, we'll return to our astronauts' home base, the European Astronaut Center in Cologne, where I chat with the Eurocom team, the voices guiding our astronauts in orbit. If you want to know more about Sophie and how she became an astronaut and what her training looked like, tune into the episode where I chatted with her during her basic training here at the Astronaut Center. If you liked this episode, don't forget to subscribe and share it with anyone curious about space. You can follow us on social media at ESA Spaceflight using the hashtag ESA Explores and visit esa.int for the latest updates. Stay tuned, hear you next time, and keep exploring with ESA Explores.